out. Everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lights Out. I'm your host, Josh.
And I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm the producer, Daniel.
And today, we just had to, because I've been seeing a lot of people talking about Ed Gein, Monster on Netflix. And there's a lot of people I feel like don't really understand the full, accurate story of Ed Gein. And it's one that I haven't talked about or covered in a number of years. And I thought, what a great opportunity to dive in deep. And I've never covered it with you before either.
True.
And so I figured, hey, you know, while everybody's talking about it, let's dive back into it, because I think there's a lot that people missed. Also, the show missed, which we'll talk about. Some major inconsistencies and inaccuracies.
Yeah.
Straight up offensive.
Yeah, some problematic inaccuracies there, yeah.
On a whole other level. But I mean, Ed Gein is just one of those individuals who, man, I don't think he gets much more depraved than him. I mean, he's kind of this enigma, and just, we're all kind of like wondering, like, what happened here? What happened with him? Why did he do what he did? And I think that's where most of us kind of find the curiosity for him, is just trying to wrap our heads around why he did what he did. And
especially when you put yourself back in the mid-1900s, it's like we didn't really even coin the term yet, really, of a serial killer. We didn't know what that was as a culture. And then what he did to all these bodies, it just really hadn't been seen on this national scale of like,
yeah,
what the hell's going on in this small town? We didn't even understand, you know, how people could be like this or become like this, or what causes someone to become like this. So culturally treading new ground post-war. Yeah, just some dark realizations.
Yeah, understanding necrophilia and how one becomes obsessed with the dead, and somebody who goes and digs up dead bodies and desecrates them and just does what he did with them. I mean, I think that's what it really was, is back in the 1950s. I mean, this kind of thing was sort of unheard of, or if it happened, it didn't get as much publicity as Ed Gein's story did.
Yeah.
Is just like everybody descended on Plainfield and was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And the fact that it was just him alone in his house for most of the time, just doing all these horrific things. And I think it because it was one of the earliest iterations of this happening, that it kind of, and the amount of media attention it got, kind of pushed him into this weird pedestal of killers and just evil individuals, to the point where obviously lots of fictional stories have been inspired by it, you know, and I think that's why he sort of lives in infamy of, like, you know, we'll always know him. Anybody you talk to knows Ed Gein. And like a lot of times I'll talk to people just out in public, or somebody will be like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, I do podcasts and I do this show called Lights Out, and I cover, you know, some of the darkest, most evil individuals to ever live. And usually one of the first people that comes up is Ed Gein, especially or Jeffrey Dahmer, things like that. People, you know, everybody knows that, knows about those two individuals. And like what I've learned throughout the course of doing the show is that they maybe were some of the first to do what they did, but they certainly weren't the first in history to do what they did. There was lots of instances of people doing all sorts of horrific things before they ever came along. They just, it wasn't, the timing wasn't the same, and there wasn't the same documentation and sort of media circus that followed like there was with Ed Gein. And so, yeah, it's just, and now with this Netflix series, Monster, and you know, when Jeffrey Dahmer came out and they covered him, I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to see what Ryan Murphy cooked up here. And so I spent some time over the past week watching through as much of the series as I could. And
it's a cinematic masterpiece.
I mean, like from a technical perspective of like the shots and the scenery and the actor, like
sure,
he put together a production, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but it's like, what are we really doing here? Because it's not a documentary.
Right,
this isn't a documentary series.
Yeah.
It's a fictional take on real individuals with some real elements mixed in there. Really, it's inspired by the true story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, what is the purpose, right? I mean, obviously the purpose is to make money. I think that's like
I think first and foremost, it's hard to deny. Like
Right.
that's especially with the casting of Charlie Hunnam as the guy who plays Ed Gein, which I have a lot of issues with. I think and we'll talk about, I think there's a lot of just controversy and problems with having somebody like him cast as this guy who really wasn't anything like Charlie Hunnam at all, and the version of Ed Gein that he played in the show, but also just like physically.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I mean, there's just so many things. So we're going to go through the full story of Ed Gein, give you all of the facts. Maybe you just watched the series and you're wondering, how accurate was this? Because I saw a lot of people really love this series. And I think a lot of the people that love the series maybe don't know the full factual account of Ed Gein and his crimes and the things that he did. And so I understand from just watching the show, you might be like, wow, this is all insane and crazy. And like, this is the truth. This is what happened, even though they're not necessarily marketing it that way, but you might walk away thinking that's the real story. But
right.
In fact, there's a lot of things that the show took their own creative liberty with and kind of ran a bunch of different ways, which just is insane to me. So we're going to give you the real story, the real, as graphic and disturbing as it is, this is the real account of Ed Gein.
Yeah, and we should also talk later once we dig into the show a little bit, like how damaging it is, I think, personally, in changing stories like this.
Yes.
Or taking creative liberties on something so horrific, right? It's like, are we taking creative liberties in any other sphere? Really, can you think of outside of serial killers? Are we taking like creative liberties to tell a completely different story than what actually happened?
Yeah, I mean, not in this way.
Yeah, no, I can't
way.
really think of a comparison.
I mean, it's, this isn't the first time this has been done, but it just seems wrong in so many ways to do this and sort of immortalize such a controversial individual and quite frankly, an evil person, and give them this sort of second life and sort of this like new representation that's
just false.
That's just,
it's not even real.
Far from the truth.
Yeah.
Where because you got to think too, all the people on Netflix and the young people who maybe haven't learned about Ed Gein yet or haven't heard and are watching these shows and thinking this is a documentary and not really realizing it's not a documentary.
Not even close.
And they're not actually seeing the real story and understanding the real impact that this individual had on the community playing field, but also the families of the victims and them having to relive this with this new media, I think is a major concern.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to unpack here with this. But we're going to give you the real story, the real raw. It is definitely disturbing, graphic in nature. Obviously, if you know anything about Ed Gein, his crimes are on another level. It's very grotesque and macabre, but it's an important one. I think it's got to be told right, and you got to know the facts to fully understand what happened there. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the show got very wrong, so that you at least know, right? And yeah, that's the episode for you today. Before we get into things, though, we do have a little announcement we wanted to make, or rather, Austin has an announcement he's going to make, and this has kind of been something that we've been kind of keeping behind the scenes for a little while, kind of as we figured out sort of the logistics around of it. But Austin is sadly going to be leaving Lights Out.
Yeah, I'll be heading back to Michigan. I'll be leaving Mile Higher Media and Lights Out in the next few months here. We don't have an exact date currently, so I'll still be around for a little bit here. But as many of you might know, or especially people in the office know, Michigan's my home. That's where my family is. That's where my friends are. The people I hold very close to me are back there, and I just see myself back there, the older I get especially. So yeah, I'll be heading back there in the next few months. I will miss this show dearly. I feel like I am almost severing a part of myself when I think about leaving this show and leaving, this studio. Really, podcasting has become such a part of my day-to-day nature, which is why, I want to continue podcasting. I have a very small seed of where I want to go beyond this, but I think I see myself podcasting in the future, whatever that might be, my own show, whatever. I don't want to disappear from this platform because Josh here and everyone really here at Mile Higher Media has really opened my eyes in the last several years to like what this type of media has the potential to be, how many people you can reach, how positive it can be as well. Like all the fans, you guys, that's the fuel behind this fire. Is you guys have been so nice to me and so welcoming from day one.
Definitely. No, it was amazing to see you come in and just everybody just welcomed you with open arms and the support. And, I think you've made a long lasting impact on the show and me. And just this has been such a fun adventure. I can't believe it's already been 3 years that we've been at this.
Yeah, right.
It went by really fast, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it almost marks exactly. I think we're coming up on exactly 3 years since my first episode. Yeah, damn.
It's crazy.
Went by in a blink, really.
I know. Hey, good times, man. Good times.
Yeah. Well, we still got more times ahead of us because I'm not leaving, tomorrow or anything.
No.
I'll be around for several more episodes. We'll get to have some fun.
A good amount of episodes, actually. Yeah. I think at least probably another 10 to 15 or so.
Yeah, we got some time here. So
ways. We just wanted to kind of preemptively just give a heads up.
So I don't just disappear one day. People are like, what the hell?
Yeah, people are like, what did Josh do to us? What happened?
He finally killed him, didn't he? Yeah.
So it's all love. Obviously from my perspective, I think I've always told Austin that I'll support him in whatever he wants to do, and I want you to follow where your heart's telling you to go. And, I've felt for a while that he's very homesick and, he's got a lot of great things and great opportunities back in Michigan. And it's very difficult to be away from your family. And especially as we're, you and I are entering this next chapter of life and there's family and potential kids and all these different things to figure out. You've got to do what's best for your family and your future. And so I totally respect that. And, it's all love. I'm going to support Austin however I can in this transition. And we'll absolutely miss him, as I know many of you will. But Danny will be here still. Danny's not going anywhere. So Danny will probably be helping me out quite a bit for a while until we sort of figure out what our next move will be once Austin does finally depart. But we'll still be in contact. Maybe he'll come swing by.
I would love
every now and then and say what's up. So it's not goodbye forever.
No. I would love to come back for some guest episodes for sure.
Anytime you're in Denver, man, just where we're at. So
I'll hit you guys up. Yeah. It's actually been all love from you guys and everyone else here at Mile Higher Media. You guys have been very supportive of.
We appreciate that, man.
And this has been one of the hardest decisions I've had to make. And I don't say that lightly.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's hard. I get it. I get it. I wish I could make everything work perfectly for everybody. It's just, at the end of the day, the show must go on. And, I hope you continue podcasting and find your own way. And
it becomes a part of you.
It does. You get used to this life and you get used to doing this. And I think you have immense talent.
Wow. Thank you.
I do.
I appreciate
I genuinely
that.
think you have immense talent. And I think our audience knows that. And there's a reason why the show's done so well over the years. And so, man, nothing but love for you and where you're going. And, I hope everybody else out there, understands, it's, everybody's just doing what's best for everybody at the end of the day,
True.
But, Yeah. He's going to be here for a while, so
I will be. Yeah.
he's not going to disappear on us.
No,
And we'll,
no
of course,
tears yet. Yeah.
Of course, when that day comes, that is the last episode, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
But no, he's going to be here for a bit. We've got a lot of really crazy stuff coming down.
Yeah, we do. I think this gives us the opportunity to kind of ramp it up and do some episodes we've been maybe sitting on.
Yeah,
I've wanted to do for a while. And then the last episode, Josh and I will finally kiss.
Kiss or full out brawl. We'll see. You'll have
one
to
or the other.
Yeah, see what happens.
You can do both.
Yeah. I just hope that when you leave here that you aren't followed home by anything and that your time
I hope
here,
I am.
and your
No, the demons will follow me back to Michigan. They'll be like, why does the sun never come out for 4 months straight?
they might manifest stronger.
Yeah, actually, maybe. Yeah.
We just get a call from us. It's like, dude, everything has just gone wrong. So
Everything, my life is falling apart. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us and being there for us. We appreciate every one of you for supporting us and supporting the show. But let's go ahead and get into the true story of Ed Gein.
Let's do it.
So if we go all the way back to the very beginning, Mr. Ed Gein was born Edward Theodore Gein, and he was born on August 27, 1906 in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. His father was George Philip Gein, and his mother was Augusta Wilhelmine Gein. And they married in 1900. So you really do have to put yourself in the time period because I think it plays a major role in this case in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Including just parenting.
Oh,
and just
physical beatings and we're standard. Yeah.
The religious aspects of it is very much ingrained in the everyday routine. But Ed was the youngest of 2 sons and he had an older brother named Henry. Ed was described as a quiet child who had an obsessive love for his mother. Ed's odd relationship with his mother, Augusta, is a relationship that went on to inspire many stories, including one of the most famous classic horror movies, of course, Psycho.
Love it.
Even in the book from which it is adapted, Norman Bates' character, who is obsessed with his mother, admits he is like Ed Gein. Augusta came from a strict household of German immigrants and was described as domineering, oppressive, puritanical, hostile, and fervently religious. Which you combine all those together, I think it gives you a really good idea of what she was like.
A terrifying person.
Very terrifying to be around. And she constantly preached about how the entire world was in moral decline. She was raised in a strict German Old Lutheran household, far more radical than the mainstream Lutheran faith, and she believed that within every human thought was a potential for sin. That's a terrifying thought. That humans were constantly plagued by sin and deserved to burn in hell for eternity.
Really negative outlook on everything.
That's a tough mindset to grow up in.
Yeah.
She also taught Ed and Henry early on that all women, including herself, were, quote, instruments of the devil. Not good. She also taught them that anything involving sex and lust was sinful and immoral. She found sex repulsive and only engaged in it to have children. Every night, she would pick and choose Bible passages to get her points across with. Many included wrathful punishments or intense stories from our favorite book of the Bible, the Book of Revelation, to scare her children into obeying her and conforming to her very strict ideologies. And she was so domineering that she molded Ed into a shy, weak-willed, sexually repressed, and confused young man. Augusta also believed in the temperance movement and that alcohol was inherently evil. And this might have been inspired by her being married to Ed's father, George. He was a violent alcoholic who beat both his sons, and he'd beat Ed so hard in the head that according to him, his ears would ring. Which that to me sounds like definite brain damage happening. I mean, Danny gets hit in the head for fun, but he wears safety gear. But what's your takeaway from that? You think he's experiencing concussions at least?
I mean, maybe not a concussion where you'd want to be hospitalized, but micro concussions over the course of decades, 100%. He definitely had some brain damage, and I wouldn't put it past him having CTE in his older years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. I mean, just being that young and, it takes a while for your brain to fully develop, your skull to fully develop. And if you're getting hit in the head, And it sounds like violently.
Yeah, if your head's ringing, that's a hard hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only had that happen one time where my ears are ringing after slamming my head on the ground. So that's scary. I mean, that scared me. I definitely felt like I had a concussion after that. So, yeah. This episode is brought to you by one of Austin and I's favorite services out there, ZocDoc. Because booking doctor's appointments has never been easier. I mean, God, there's so many times that ZocDoc has come in clutch. I used it recently because I was dying from a sinus infection, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was so just in so much agony at 4 a.m. that I hopped on ZocDoc and made myself an appointment with urgent care for that following morning, and it saved the day because that was the first thing I thought of when I was like, I need to go see a doctor. This has gone on for too long. And I hopped on ZocDoc, and of course, there was somebody available the same day. I mean, you can't get a doctor's appointment like that any other way.
No, at 4 a.m.?
It's incredible.
Everybody's
It
asleep.
was booked, ready to go, and it was like at 9:30 that morning. So it was like first thing in the morning when they open practically.
That's
I was able to get an
awesome.
appointment. It's incredible. It's super easy. They have an app. You can do it on their website as well. You can find a medical professional for pretty much anything. I mean, they have every specialty on there, including dentists, orthopedic surgeons, to therapists, psychiatrists, dermatologists,
Witch doctor.
witch doctors. Yes, whatever you need, they've got it. ZocDoc will hook you up with an appointment, usually 24 to 72 hours, but sometimes you get that same day appointment, which is great. And it's easy to sort by your insurance, so you know you're looking at providers that actually take your insurance. You're not guessing. It's a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. And you can see patient-reviewed doctors and their reviews. So you can actually see who you're going in to see, what other people have said about them, so you could potentially avoid a bad appointment.
I like that. Kind of democratizes your health care a little bit.
Yeah. And it forces doctors. They got to provide that bedside care, right?
Right.
Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/lightsout to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/lightsout. ZocDoc.com/lightsout.
So he's growing up being beaten. There was also, he would get beaten for complaining about bullies at school. And he'd also become violent towards Augusta to the point where she would scream that she wished he was dead. So very traumatic environment to grow up in. George rarely ever got along with Augusta, but they remained married for about 40 years until death did them apart. Augusta's faith forbade her from divorce, and her hatred toward her husband fueled her hatred toward all men, including her own sons. Early in her marriage, she desperately wanted a daughter, but her wish never came true. Instead, she had given birth to Henry and then to Ed.
Meanwhile, George struggled to hold down a job due to his alcoholism, whether it was leather tanning, firefighting, carpentry, insurance salesman, or eventually a grocery store owner. And Augusta even helped him run that store, but he eventually sold the store so the Gein family could move to a 150-acre farm in Plainfield, Wisconsin in 1914. This town, with a population of about 680 people at the time, was about 100 miles east of La Crosse County. It's surrounded by flat plains, farmland, and wooded areas. A guidebook at the time actually described Plainfield as totally nondescript. I mean, it's literally called Plainfield.
It's plain as it can be.
Yeah, there's nothing there. And it was generally a very poor community of farmers. Augusta enjoyed the move because she thought that La Crosse was overrun by sinners. Some people even say she thought it was like this Sodom and Gomorrah type place.
It's wild.
And so she took advantage of their Plainfield farm being so isolated from the rest of society, which she clearly had a very negative a negative outlook toward. Their farmhouse was about 6 miles outside of the city center, near the corner of Archer and 2nd Avenue. It was a 2-story home surrounded by marshlands, woods, and fields. Augusta used this isolation to gain total control over her son, Ed. He was only allowed to leave the farm to attend the nearby grade school, which was a one-room building with only 12 students. Occasionally, he was told to run errands to some local stores, but mostly he stayed home with his family, especially his mother. Surprisingly, he actually did okay in his studies at school, and he was known to be an avid reader, which he would be throughout most of his life. But he really struggled to make friends for many reasons. He looked a bit different. He had this kind of lazy eye. He also apparently had a lesion on his tongue that made it hard for him to talk, especially when he was younger. Teachers and fellow students would also notice that he would randomly laugh during class, like he had made a joke, but only for himself. Like he thought of it in his head, and then he would just start to laugh. So he wasn't the most popular kid at school, as you can imagine. And on the rare occasion that he tried to make friends at school, his mother would actually punish him, according to family friends. Augusta believed that isolating Ed from his friends was the only way to prevent him from being a weak alcoholic failure like his father. So I don't know exactly where that's stemming from. You can kind of speculate. Did his father just have a bunch of drinking buddies, and that's why he would get out and go plastered? So she was equating friends with a bad
influence on
him
is what I'm guessing.
Yeah. And it gets really weird here. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but one time she caught him masturbating in the tub at age 12. She then grabbed his genitals and called them the curse of man. She emphasized that sex would lead him to eternal damnation, so he needed to remain celibate for his entire life. He actually promised her that he would, and according to Ed, he kept this promise to his mother to the very end. Apparently, he never had sex his entire life, according to him. Criminal psychologist Dr. Eric Hickey believed that Ed's sexuality was directly tied to his mother, and there's no evidence of outright sexual abuse between Ed and his mother, but the shame that Augusta had programmed into him heavily influenced his views on sex.
I think there's no question about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just hearing that experience at age 12.
Yeah.
And I mean, none of us can even fathom what that would be like. That just, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That he ends up being the way that he does, with sort of his weird sexual fascinations and things like that. But the fact that it's so heavily tied to his mother is just absolutely bizarre. I mean, this is just something that I don't think outside of Ed Gein I've ever even heard of someone doing to their child.
No. I should clarify, I did say there's no evidence of outright sexual abuse between them, as in there's no evidence of them her raping him,
right.
To clarify, because obviously the interaction in the bathtub would be sexual abuse, but yeah, there's no evidence of them actually, having any disgusting
intercourse or something.
Yes, exactly. He once allegedly expressed that he watched his mother gut a pig and it aroused him. This is apparently when he experienced his first orgasm. I don't know how accurate that source is on that, so take that as you will, but some have described his intimacy with his mother as psychological incest. Augusta had basically just isolated him and controlled him to the point where all of his views on women were directly tied to her, and it's believed this lasted his entire life. It suggested that Ed was disgusted by other women and developed a complicated sexual attraction toward his mother, or those who reminded him of his mother. Her overbearing control really just warped him throughout his formative years, and criminal psychologist Dr. Eric Hickey said, "Every child needs to bond and have healthy attachments. Children who do not have healthy attachments often end up going down a pathway where they don't have a stake in conformity. They don't develop a need to be a part of the community. They don't have empathy." And a lot of attachment theory, that is directly connected from your childhood and in correlation to the relationship with your mother. So having that be so distorted early on must have had just a profound impact on Ed growing up. His mother's abuse went beyond the sexual control, and at the farmhouse, she would order him to do constant menial chores, and if he ever made a mistake, she would really ridicule him. One time she said to him, "Only a mother could love you." I'm sure that just compounds and adds to what's going on. So Being so controlled, abused, and isolated, Ed's goals growing up were to remain a virgin and devote himself entirely to serving his mother for as long as she lived. He dropped out of school after completing 8th grade, and by then he believed that men were weak, and he had completely adopted Augusta's zealous religious worldviews. Psychologists and authors have suggested that early on, Ed might have wanted to be a woman. Some suggest Ed even had daydreams of this. Reportedly, he was very fascinated by a woman named Christine Jorgensen, who was a trans woman who served in World War II and became a famous singer and actress, and she was given extensive media coverage for her transition. So reportedly, he followed that story as it was unraveling. And while Ed might have considered the idea of being a woman, it's also been suggested that he might have just wanted to become his mother specifically. So there really is an ongoing debate over whether Ed Gein ever experienced gender dysphoria. We won't ever really have the answer to that, to be clear. These were things that were expressed generally, and also we didn't have as clear of a view on this as we do now back then. So it's really up in the air.
I think it's, you could really consider all these things possibilities, though.
Sure.
I mean, just based on what he went through, it all seems plausible. At the very least, not too far out there.
Especially trying to become his mother. What will, if you already know the story, or what will reveal later.
Right.
I mean, it certainly seems like this obsession with his mother becomes much more problematic because he sees himself as her at times, literally getting into the skin of people to try and become her. So I could definitely buy that,
Yeah, I think really one of the biggest factors here is the isolation. The isolation, and as we see with other serial killers too, a lot of times they're isolated, withdrawn, and I think that's where, and just the fact that he is so isolated physically. I mean, he's like completely detached. He's living in a tiny, tiny town away from civilization, that he's just so far removed from society that he is completely just at the will of his mother and the way that she's raising him. And, he's being told that all women are the devil, basically.
Yeah. And like Dr. Higgy was saying, it's like you conform to your community, right?
Yeah.
You need that to empathize with others and to be a part of a community. And I always forget the name of the girl. She was raised by wolves, that famous story. And she like acted like them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows like that's another form of isolation where you just become kind of what's closest to you by proximity. And she became a part of a community of wolves. Whereas if Ed Gein's community, so to speak, is just his mother, who's like crazy overbearing and manipulating him this whole time.
Yeah, not only sexually abusing him, but also spiritually abusing him.
Right, yeah, emotionally.
I mean, the amount of like spiritual abuse that happens to Ed via his mother is alarming. And it's just like, when you couple everything together, it all sort of starts to make a little bit of sense of like, wow, he ends up this way. Well, if you go back to the beginning, from an early age, you really see where the foundation is set.
Right.
There's no question about it. And through his 20s, Ed was still living at the isolated farmhouse with his brother, mother, and father. Augusta ruled that farmhouse with an iron fist. And when Ed was in his 30s, his father, George, died at 66 years old. And this was on April 1st, 1940. Some reports claim it was due to heart failure. Other reports claim it was from complications from pneumonia, where his lungs were filled with fluid. But neither Ed or Augusta showed any emotion after his passing. Augusta said he had died from weakness and sin, and that he had gone to hell. So there you go. There you go again. Could argue spiritual abuse there. That she's now telling Ed that he died specifically of these reasons, even though it was likely a medical condition that happened. Right. Now with George gone, Augusta had complete control over the farmhouse, and Ed would do anything she asked. Around town, Ed had gotten a reputation as a quiet, odd guy, but generally nice and harmless. People trusted him with odd jobs around their properties. He and his brother Henry began working for neighbors around town to make up for the loss of income after their father's passing. They worked as general handymen, and reportedly Ed even babysat for neighbors and got along with the children, sometimes more so than even adults. A resident of Plainfield, Max Harrington, said that Ed was generally friendly and quiet and usually had a joke to tell. He would always say hello, and according to Max, he was a person who you would never suspect of anything other than being a decent sort of person. Just kind of an average guy, definitely quiet, definitely, and I think people knew likely who his parents were and knew the situation to some extent at home, and just was kind of like, that's a product of this, or he's a product of that sort of environment to some extent. But back at the farmhouse, Henry wasn't as loyal to their mother as Ed was. In his 40s, he had begun seeing a divorced woman who had 2 children, and he made plans to move in with her. It was around this time that he began questioning the dynamics of his own immediate family, and he mentioned that Ed and their mother had an unhealthy relationship, and he began criticizing their mother in front of Ed. Ed was deeply offended by his brother's remarks. And it might not have been a coincidence that Henry mysteriously died soon after this. One day, in May 1944, Ed and Henry were clearing dead overgrowth in a nearby field by burning it. And according to Ed, the fire got out of control and began heading toward the farmhouse, and he lost sight of his brother as they both tried to contain the flames. The fire got so out of control that the local volunteer firefighters noticed the black smoke billowing into the sky, right above their farm. They ran to help, and luckily by sundown, the fire was put out, and Ed noticed that Henry was nowhere to be seen. They formed up a search party, and after several hours of searching in the dark, they found Henry lying face down in the dirt. Some sources claim that Ed led the search party directly to his brother's body. And according to a local newspaper, Henry suffered no burn wounds and died from an apparent heart attack. Reports claim his head was severely bruised. The theory was that he fell over from heart failure and hit his head on a rock. A county coroner later listed asphyxiation leading to heart failure as a cause of death. Police dismissed any chance of foul play, and no official investigation was ever carried out, and an autopsy was never performed, especially since Ed was generally trusted in the community at the time. People only began to question the suspicious death after Ed's horrific crimes were uncovered. And it's still very unclear exactly what happened to Henry Gein, which, as the show, and
right.
there's a lot of things in media and people that point to that. Is it possible that he killed his brother, or his mother had him kill his brother, or something along those lines?
Right. I mean, I could see it as, okay, this fire's out of control, and I have kind of this opportunity where I could whack him over the back of the head with a, whatever tool is nearby, a shovel, and then, where is he gone? Nobody knows. And then there was a report I read, which I didn't trust the source, but apparently when he was lost, Ed kind of showed the search party like exactly where the body was, almost like he had known the whole time where it was. But then I found other reports that didn't say that, so I wasn't exactly sure if that was true or not. But I could buy it that he just took the opportunity and killed his brother.
I think you can create a motive for that.
Yeah.
I think you could clearly tell that Ed's mother was not happy that Henry was not, conforming to the standards that she was putting forth. And also, she was probably worried that Henry would eventually pull Ed away from her.
Sure.
And so I think there's definitely enough motive there for something like that to happen.
Or Ed by this time was just so loyal to his mother that any question about their relationship or her tactics were seen as like so offensive to Ed that he's like, we got to take this guy out.
It just seems to me, especially with how things play out later on with Ed's confession later, why not come clean about that if he really did it, you know what I mean?
True.
So I don't know. I'm on the fence with that. I think it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, same.
I think there's enough there that it's plausible he would have done that. But again, we'll probably never know.
Yep, unfortunately.
With the holidays right around the corner, you need to try Wild Grain. They're nice enough to sponsor Lights Out. And I got to say, I am all hype for Wild Grain, and they deliver too.
You're going wild.
I'm going wild. Like I want to be a Wild Grain ambassador. I want free cookies for life from these guys because it is some of the best bake from frozen goods I've ever had. And I'm not just saying that. Like, it tastes like you just made it in your kitchen. Your mama just made it. Your grandma just made it.
Get a little nostalgic about it.
You really do. I mean, it's so good. And these giant chocolate chip cookies they have, they're like the size of a small plate.
Yeah.
Well, what they will give you is free croissants for life if you sign up.
That's true.
For a limited time, they're giving our listeners who sign up the option to get free croissants in every box.
Yum.
Which is amazing. But they have a lot of other things. They have pastries, they have breads, they have bagels now, which is pretty fire. They have seasonal recipes as well. They have like pumpkin cinnamon biscuits.
Oh my God.
Apple cider donuts. I'm excited to see what's coming for this holiday season. They usually have some other type of thing. They have apple pie bites.
Ooh.
Parmesan herb biscuits. Oh, tear and share cranberry pecan rolls.
Oh, I'm not sharing that. Give me all of it.
It's just convenient. Shows up at the door. You just throw it in your freezer. You pull it out. Takes like 20 minutes to heat up some bread. The sourdough bread is next level too, by the way. But everything is easy. It's just baked from frozen, and you have something that tastes like it was just made fresh in your kitchen. It is absolutely amazing. Check out their menu at least. Check it out, and I bet you will be enticed to get yourself a Wild Grain box, because right now you can take advantage of a special offer we have. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off your first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/lightsout to start your subscription.
That's right. You heard them. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/lightsout. That's wildgrain.com/lightsout. Or you can use promo code lightsout at checkout.
Make sure you use that promo code. Let them know that we sent you. And I promise you won't be disappointed.
By Ed's 38th birthday, only his mother and he were left in the farmhouse, and he waited on his mother hand and foot. Reportedly, Ed was so obsessed with his mother that he was happy he finally had her to himself without his father and brother around. After Henry's death, Augusta had taken the loss of her son very hard, and she had fallen ill and suffered a paralyzing stroke at 66 years old. Ed then became her caretaker. In his free time, while his mother's health declined, he began reading books about things like head shrinking, grave robbing, and human anatomy. His interests seemed to take a much darker path as time went on. And soon, he would be completely alone in the farmhouse when his mother suffered a fatal stroke 19 months after Henry's death, when Ed was 39. Augusta passed away on December 29th, 1945 at the age of 67. Ed Gein was obviously very heartbroken and was heard wailing like a small child after his mother's death. I believe that was at her funeral. Eyewitnesses said he also had trouble standing at the funeral as well. Biographer Harold Schechter wrote that Ed lost his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world. Without his mother, he was left completely isolated in the Plainfield farmhouse, and he basically just let the property go to ruin, except for a few rooms, because he boarded up things like his mother's bedroom and most rooms he associated with her, including the 2 parlors and the living room. He treated this as a kind of shrine to his mother. While these rooms were left clean and perfectly preserved, he let the rest of the house become an absolute mess. There's trash everywhere, books strewn about, furniture, a total mess. His mother was so domineering when she was alive that she left Ed emotionally and developmentally stunted, and now that she was gone, he had almost no direction in life. He had to find a new direction in life, so over the next 12 years, he would fall even deeper into his dark and twisted fascinations. He slept in a small room beside the kitchen, and he began reading more books and pulp magazines. Some were just fun adventure stories, others were more like pornographic magazines or weird anatomical books or medical textbooks, but some of the more disturbing books involved things like cannibalism. He was also fascinated with Nazi war criminals and the atrocities committed during the Holocaust, and his fascination with more grotesque and disturbing subjects worsened each year after his mother's death. We'll come back to this a little bit later, but yeah, I mean, he's an avid reader. Also, considering the time frame, I mean, a lot of people point to this and be like, oh, why was he reading so much about the Holocaust? But this was right after World War II had just ended. So I'm sure a lot of people were kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like, actually, but considering the time frame,
yeah.
it's not that bizarre that people are reading about World War II because the world had never seen anything like this before, really. But then knowing what he did later, people started to second guess, like, oh, why did he have all these weird books all over the place? Not much is really known about his private life during these years since he lived in such isolation. Again, he's just at the farmhouse alone by himself. But for work, Ed occasionally shoveled walkways, mowed lawns, and even joined the local municipal road crew, or he worked on crop threshing crews on local farms. He was known as a hard worker. He was hired often, and in 1951, he started receiving a farm subsidy from the federal government, which I couldn't really understand this. So I guess he's getting some income from the federal government, but some other reports saying that he let the farm go and he wasn't really farming anymore because that was more of like his dad's thing. But so I'm not sure why he would keep receiving the money from the federal government, because it sounded like he wasn't a farmer.
Well, what it could be is that he was subsidizing the land to other farmers.
Oh, that makes more sense.
So he gets a kickback from that by letting other farmers farm his lands, because it seems like they had a good amount of acreage. And because he ends up selling off an 80-acre piece of land. So I think they had serious acreage, and he probably just subsidized that land after his dad died. He's like, I'm not going to farm it. So
that makes
other people
came
in and farmed it, I assume.
Okay, that makes sense then. He occasionally, I mean, even though he's kind of written off as a very reclusive person, he did have dinner with his neighbors where he was very polite. He would sit, pretty much didn't make a peep the whole time, but he was very pleasant almost.
Yeah, he's not like this wild guy that's coming in and has all this crazy outbursts and crazy behaviors.
Right. He socialized with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And locals would also see him around town, and he seemed like his usual self, other than the fact that occasionally he appeared unkempt and didn't bathe himself as much. People, I think they started noticing this after his mother had passed away. He wasn't really taking care of himself, and he also stopped tending to the farm and let the weeds on the property run rampant. But that makes more sense if he just let other farmers start to.
Yeah, he's probably he's just living in the house on the land. Which leads us to November 16th, 1957. And this is the first day of deer hunting season. Most of the men in the town were out in the woods hunting, leaving the center of town empty. And Ed Gein took advantage of this. He drove into the empty town to visit the local warden's hardware store, and this store was owned and operated by Bernice Warden, a widow most people in Plainview knew, who had actually run the store since her husband passed away in 1931. Ed had been hanging around the store in the previous weeks bothering 58-year-old Bernice. Reportedly, he even asked her on a date to go roller skating. She wasn't interested, but Ed remained a customer who would lurk around the store. The morning of November 16th, he asked Bernice for a half-gallon of antifreeze. She rang him up, and he took the bottle back to his car. The store and the surrounding area were generally empty since the men were out hunting, and no one else was inside the store at this time. Ed re-entered the store and asked to take a look at a rifle that was on display at the front of the store. She then handed him the rifle, and when Bernice turned her back to him to look out the window, Ed shot and killed her. He then locked the front door and dragged her corpse out of the back before loading her corpse into a truck and drove her back to his farm. An eyewitness saw the truck leaving the store around 9:30 a.m. That day after Ed returned to the farmhouse, two young neighbors, brother and sister Bob and Darlene Hill, stopped by to ask for a ride into town, and they noticed that Ed's hands were covered in blood. He claimed he was only dressing a deer, and they believed him because, again, it's the first day of hunting season, so it's pretty plausible explanation for the blood. Later that day, around 5 p.m., Bernice's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, returned to the store and couldn't find his mother. Confused, he then noticed the cash register was open and spotted a trail of blood beginning inside the hardware store leading outside. He also spotted a .22 caliber shell casing lying on the floor. Frank immediately suspected Ed Gein because he had been around the shop a lot in the past few weeks, just bothering, kind of harassing his mother, Bernice. He had also witnessed Ed inside the store the day before his mother's disappearance, mentioning that he was going to return to their store the next day for a bottle of antifreeze. He also specifically asked Frank if he would be out hunting that day. So you see this
Stupid.
based on that. Yeah.
He's kind of dumb.
But it also shows he's plotting.
Yeah, true.
He's
Are you going to be out? Yeah.
Yeah,
so you're
he's
not gonna be here?
premeditating his crimes here.
Mhm. Yeah.
Frank then contacted the police and told them that his mother was missing, that there was blood inside the store, and Ed Gein was the first person of interest that came to his mind. Frank also showed investigators the last receipt written by his mother, Bernice, and it was a sales slip for the antifreeze that Ed had just bought.
When one police unit arrived at Ed's farmhouse, he wasn't there. According to local news, police found Ed at Hill's grocery store in West Plainfield. They arrested him on the spot, but according to another source, police found him at a neighbor's house having dinner where they arrested him. Either way, he was in custody and taken back to the station for interrogation. That same day, officers from the Plainfield Police Department searched Ed's farmhouse. They could not get into the house at first, so they checked the summer kitchen, this is often just referred to as a shed, which was kind of disconnected from the main house. I also heard one report that it was actually connected to the main house, but you could only really access it from an exterior door. But anyway, there was no electricity at the property at all, so officers had to search this shed with flashlights. And on first glance, they thought they saw what looked like a dressed deer hanging from the rafters, but upon closer inspection, they realized that it was the body of a female corpse hanging by its heels. The wrists had been tied and the corpse had been disemboweled and decapitated. The genitalia and rectum had also been removed. They also found the body had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle. Police accurately assumed that this was the body of Bernice Worden. As you can imagine, this had been the most horrific thing these local police officers had ever seen in their lives, and it would only get worse because inside the farmhouse, there were various items, furniture, and trash just all over the place. And instead of taking his garbage to the dump like a normal person, he had begun just spreading it all over his home. But this was the least of the officers' concerns because while his farmhouse was searched on November 16th, 1957, police found a disturbing collection of human bones, skulls, and skin that Ed had fashioned into pieces of furniture and clothing. So these items included Bernice Worden's entire head in a burlap sack and her heart in a plastic bag, a wastebasket made of human skin, kitchen chairs upholstered with human skin, human skulls mounted on bedposts, human skulls, some with the tops sawn off, human skulls fashioned into 3 bowls, and some were even used for eating food out of. He sanded the inside of the bowls to make them smooth. Gloves made of skin from human hands, masks made from the skin of female heads that hung on his bedroom wall. Some even had lipstick put on them. 9 vulvas in a shoebox. Some had even been painted and tied with ribbons. A young girl's dress and the vulvas of 2 females, possibly about 15 years old. A belt made from female human nipples with a brass buckle. 4 noses in a jar. Bracelets made of human skin. 2 sets of dentures. A pair of lips on a window shade drawstring. A lampshade made from the skin of a human face. And this last one is maybe the most notorious. This is a corset made from a female torso, skinned from the shoulders to the waist, as well as leggings made from a woman's leg skin. This is sometimes called Ed Gein's skin suit, and he admittedly would wear these along with a skin mask and walk around his property, pretending to be his mother, Augusta. I could not imagine being one of the officers who had to find this.
Yeah, it's just that you're probably not even thinking this is real initially when you're walking into this. You're
right
till after the fact, and you start realizing, oh my God. I mean, he basically just dressed them like deer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He took his skills from hunting and dressing animals and applied that to humans, but took it even a step further to start crafting all these different things. It's just,
and I mean, it's hard to ignore the sexual undertones for a lot of this. You know, the human nipples, the vulvas that were found in there too. Knowing even how the corpse in the shed. The genitalia had been removed.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you definitely can't ignore that. Police also discovered parts of a severed head inside the farmhouse, including a face mask in a paper bag and her skull in a box. And police realized these belonged to a woman who had gone missing several years earlier, 51-year-old Mary Hogan. She was a tavern owner who had been missing since December 8th, 1954, and she lived in the same building as her tavern and was described as a quiet, friendly woman who is afraid of strangers. Ed had been in her tavern about 3 times before she went missing. Police also found a .22 caliber bullet casing inside the tavern, a pool of blood, and tire tracks outside. Mary did have some ties to organized crime, but her case led to a dead end at the time. During Ed's interrogation, he didn't talk for the first day, but about 24 hours after his arrest, he started to come clean, and his interrogation lasted about 9 hours. After police confronted him with the evidence of finding Mary Hogan's remains in his home, Ed admitted to shooting Mary in her tavern, although he claimed he couldn't remember the details. One local later recalled that after Mary had gone missing, Ed told them that she wasn't missing. She was up at his house, and he joked about her being there. But since Ed was odd, nobody really took him seriously. During the interrogation, Ed also freely confessed to the murder of Bernice Warden. He did not have a lawyer present, and he did not request one. And so, let's take a look at this archived clip, because there's very few of them out there. But we were able to find one that still remains on YouTube. Let's take a look at what Ed had to say.
And it's a bit hard to hear. I mean, this recording is from the 50s, so bear with it.
Did you work all night at that time? I should think you have.
That's right.
What would you do with the sexual part?
That was in.
One was painted, they said.
Oh, that one, when they died, I just put the thing over it. Is there anything like,
How did you start?
Like I say, might be 4 years.
So there's a bunch of photographers from the newspapers want to take a picture. You want to take a picture?
No, it's not yet. Till we get to the statement off.
Would you enjoy it while you were doing it?
What's the worst part of it? I really didn't then. I knew better, restless.
When you dig these graves up, you were kind of in a haze too, is that it?
That's what I could do. Just how you do it.
And then one time you said you were trying to realize what you were doing and you covered her up without taking anything.
That's right.
What would you do with the sexual part?
They them in the box, that was in.
And what would you do with the head?
That must have been taken from reading about these magazines and everything. Taking the flesh off like a headhunter.
It's disturbing because he admits there earlier in that like what he knew what he was doing was wrong, but he said he was like, I was restless though.
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd because later he pleads like not guilty by reason of insanity. Mm-hmm. But he admits right there, he's like, I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
I was just restless.
Oh, that's a great point. And if you want to hear more from these lost tapes of Ed Gein, there was actually a documentary that came out back in 2023. It's called Psycho, The Lost Tapes of Ed Gein. Not the best documentary I've ever seen.
There's a bit filler like loaded in there.
Well, it looks like it's produced in part by the guys over at Last Podcast on the Left. Mm-hmm. If you know anything about those guys, I mean,
if you can stomach them.
Yeah.
Because they do show up in the documentary.
They do. Yeah. And just, I don't know. I've never been wowed by them by any means, but Schechter's in there. And he's very, very good.
Yeah. He wrote the biography about him.
Yeah. But they have a lot more audio from the interrogation with Ed Gein. And somehow the Netflix series somehow missed the
Yeah.
big time,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about in a bit. But back to what's going on right now. So although many officers first suspected that all the body parts were connected to murders, it was discovered that many of these body parts were not from Ed's murder victims. Ed admitted that 2 years after the death of his mother, he had begun grave robbing corpses, some from the same cemetery his mother was buried in. Unidentified body parts that were found in his home were also buried in a plot marked in memory of the unknown dead. And while grave robbing, he had no interest in taking jewelry or any items of value. All he was interested in was where the body parts were. One thing was obvious: all of his victims from the graves that were desecrated, and both of his confirmed murder victims were female. And some suggest that Ed's recovery of these bodies from the cemetery was a way to reanimate his mother. Others suggest he was reenacting some form of homicidal rage against his mother, especially when he escalated his crimes to murder. Reportedly, he had once tried to return his mother's body to the family home after her funeral, but he couldn't get to his mother's coffin because the soil in the plot she was buried in was very sandy. So she was basically encased in concrete, which is common for many burial plots to prevent the soil from collapsing on the body. So it'd be very difficult to pull out of that, especially by himself. It's interesting to suggest that maybe this, the murders were in fact reenacting his true thoughts and feelings that he had about his mother.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really explain going hunting for body parts and doing all the things he did with those.
Yeah, the only part of that connects to the theory about like reanimating his mother would be the skin suit of like,
right.
I'm becoming her again. I could buy it from that one.
But I can't help but think there's a sexual...
There has to be, right?
Undertone to all of this.
Yeah.
And the fact that his victims are female. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all seems to point at some type of sick sexual sort of gratification he's getting from all of this.
Yeah. It's believed that Ed murdered Mary and Bernice not only because they resembled his mother, but also because it was around the time of year when the soil was too hard to dig up bodies, so he just had to resort to murder. Ed claimed that he did not engage in necrophilia. He admitted that he had an quote-unquote erotic obsession with the corpses, but denied having sex with them. He complained that they smelled too bad. That's a quote. That suggests to me either he's lying or he was interested in engaging in that, but he's just like, no, they just smelled too bad. Because he doesn't say, no, I would never do that. That's reprehensible and disgusting. He says they smelled too bad. Right.
So it makes you think that maybe at least the thought crossed his mind.
He would consider it. Right.
If he didn't actually do necrophilia, but.
Right. So no evidence to back it up, but a very odd response.
For sure.
Admitting he had an erotic obsession with the corpses, and then he just said they smelled too bad. So Ed also denied any form of cannibalism, although he did eat food out of human skulls. We know that. I think he served soup in them as well.
I mean, isn't eating food out of a human skull, how is that much different from cannibalism?
It should be classified.
He's getting some... You're definitely getting bits and pieces of skull in your food if you're eating out of a sanded out bowl made of a human skull. Like, as far as like, did he like cut up flesh and eat that? I tend to think that he might have at least experimented.
Yeah, because some sources claim that police found a human heart on his stove. Although there's no definitive evidence, many agree that Ed was at least capable of cannibalism, even if he never admitted to it. And then criminal psychologist Dr. Eric Hickey believed that Ed was sexually involved with his victims and tried cannibalistic acts. He said, quote, I think that he would explore whatever he could. He had nothing to stop him. Yeah, I mean,
I tend to agree with that.
If he's willing to dig these bodies up, treat them like leather, paint them, fashion them into furniture, do all these like deplorable things. Why would he then all of a sudden stop there?
It's hard to imagine he just did this so that he could take the skin and make furniture.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to believe that'd be the only motivation for doing this.
Yeah.
That there'd be other things he was interested in trying.
Yeah.
If you have cats, you know how amazing they are. They're amazing creatures, very different from dogs.
Very different, yeah.
They have their own perks to them. But one thing that cats have that I just don't like is nasty, nasty food. The cat food in the can.
It smells.
It is sometimes makes you gag. You're like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
You open it up and they're like, yum.
Yeah.
Looks disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even look like food.
No.
And it would just run right through your cats. Your cats are pooping all the time because it's just such low quality food. But that all changed thanks to Smalls. Smalls is really making some great cat food, so much so that you might want to eat it yourself. It kind of looks like you could take a bite of it and be okay afterwards.
We're not saying you should.
No,
but we're
absolutely not.
saying you will want to.
You will want to. So Smalls, they had a great idea, and they felt all these pains those cat owners have with all the other foods out there, and they're like, it's time to make a good quality food. There's so many good quality foods out there for dogs, but what about the kitties? The kitties need good quality cat food, especially cat food that actually has the vitamins and the protein that your cat needs, and especially as your cats get older and up there in age. All mine are 10 plus years old at this point, considered geriatric by vet standards, and they need a little bit more to keep them healthy, keep them feeling good, keep those coats nice and soft. But with Smalls, it is just the quality is very apparent. You can tell this is high quality cat food. It's protein packed, and it uses preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your fridge. And best of all, I don't have to go out and get it anymore. It just shows up at my door in this nice cooler box. You just throw it into the fridge or in the freezer. You thaw it out when you want to give it to them, and it's fresh. They love it. My cats eat it all. Every little scrap of it is gone. And my cat's actually put on a little bit of weight, which has been great. He's been very skinny for a number of years. He's finally starting to get a little meat on his bones, and he's keeping the food down. And overall, I mean, if your cats are eating and they're eating good quality food, they're going to be better cats. They're going to be happier, just like us humans.
You are what you eat.
You are what you eat. Exactly. Smalls understands this, and they know that, your cat may not like it. So, they're there to give you a guarantee that if your cat doesn't like it, they'll refund you. But they're very confident that your cat will absolutely love their product. So that's why they have that risk-free deal. They have a bunch of different blends. But yeah, after switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements, which is great. They also have amazing treats and snacks that you can add to your order. They also have little cat toys they throw in there from time to time, a little catnip like chicken leg that they threw in there. And my cats, It's just so funny. Cats are hilarious when they get a whiff of catnip. It's great. It's a great experience for you. It's a great experience for your cats. Also, it's a great experience for those that help you out with your cats. If they're complaining about the food, try Smalls because it doesn't stink. So what are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve for a limited time. Because you are a Lights Out listener, you get 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/lightsout.
One last time, that's 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/lightsout. But yeah, Ed confessed that between 1947 and 1952, he would regularly visit 3 local cemeteries after dark and dig up bodies. He visited these cemeteries about 40 times at night, and he claimed he was in a daze-like state. During about 30 of those visits, he snapped out of that state and then kind of realized what he was doing and then left the gravesite without disturbing it. So I don't even know if I buy that, where he's like, I was in like a fugue state. And then I snapped out of it, and I was like, what am I doing here? That seems like he's pretty motivated.
When he's there 40 times?
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that either.
No. That's why his confessions.
Or he was worried about getting caught. Somebody was driving by or somebody was walking by, and he didn't want to get caught, and so he bailed, but this is his excuse.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing. When you really, really just digest all of this, you're like, it seems like he's knows what he's doing, and he knows that what he's doing is deplorable and something he absolutely shouldn't be doing, but yet he still does it because I think he's got this insatiable appetite for whatever disturbing gratification he's getting from doing all of this.
He would often keep his eyes on the local obituaries so he could harvest fresh bodies.
Why would he do that?
Yeah, this is all calculated. It was also easier for him to dig up a fresh burial plot And if any of the deceased resembled his mother, he was much more inclined to dig them up. Sometimes he would only take pieces of the body. Other times he would take the entire corpse back to his farmhouse. Then he would tan their skins to make these bizarre objects.
The making objects out of human parts and skin, is this like a control thing for him? Like maybe he never felt like he was in control before, and now that he feels like he has control over the dead, which obviously he does, but in his mind, he kind of is like equating, because this idea that he believes in reanimating his mother, is he kind of equating these other dead bodies as not, maybe they're not really dead, or is there some type of like spiritual undertone there that he believes in or something? I don't know. I just feel like there's something more like that we're missing from that we'll never know because we're not in his head when we have no idea. But I feel like there's just something else there that was motivating him to do this. That it's just because it's like, really, he could go, there's deer all over the place. You know what I mean? And people make furniture and use hides of animals and stuff for these types of objects all the time. So why did he resort to humans for that rather than just going with animals?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if knowing his mom's ideologies and like such a negative outlook on humanity in general, if he kind of just did see other humans as animals and like there was no
or
difference.
They're inherently evil, so therefore they're less than a human.
Right.
And so it's okay because they're
all in hell.
Evil entities that are burning in hell at this point. Yeah, right. I don't know. It's just,
I mean, he clearly had no respect for any of these people. But to confirm that Ed was actually telling the truth about grave robbing, police inspected some of the burial plots that he had claimed to violate. They confirmed from 3 sites that the coffins had been broken into and the bodies were either not fully intact or completely gone, and each was found exactly how Ed had described it before they got into it. One even contained his personal crowbar, so it seemed to line up. Another was empty, and inside the last, the body was mostly missing, but Ed had returned a few rings and body parts after the fact. Which is really, I don't understand that either. How do you explain that? Disturbed by what had been revealed in Ed's house and during the questioning, Sheriff Art Schley assaulted Ed by banging his head and face into a brick wall inside the station. This actually made Ed's initial confession inadmissible. Many who knew Sheriff Schley claimed that he was traumatized by the horrific crime since he had actually seen firsthand inside Ed's property, and he even told reporters, "It is too horrible, horrible beyond belief." On top of this, he had a very big fear of testifying, especially when it came to the assault against Ed, and he ended up dying of heart failure in 1968 at the age of 43, before Ed Gein's murder trial would begin. In the end, Ed Gein had admitted to grave robbing 9 corpses in total, but after examining all the body parts in his home, things didn't seem to add up. Reportedly, 12 human heads were discovered at his property, so with 9 corpses and 2 murder victims, that only adds up to 11 in total that he admitted to. So who is this final skull? Unfortunately, this is probably the biggest burden here. Forensic science in the 1950s wasn't as advanced as it is today, and things like DNA analysis weren't available. And the body parts were reportedly disposed of after they were examined. Some, I believe, were also buried as well, but we just don't have access to the victims' remains anymore, so we cannot conduct DNA analysis to actually figure out who those people were.
As the story unfolded, Ed Gein was also considered a suspect in several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin. Authorities confronted him with these cases that had occurred between the death of his mother and the time of his arrest. He would later pass lie detector tests in regards to these missing persons cases, which again, I don't feel that confident about that.
Me neither.
I mean, I think Ed I think it does say a little something about Ed. I feel like Ed probably wouldn't necessarily be able to.
You don't think he could lie his way out of there?
Yeah, like it seems that way, but again, I don't know. As part of me feels like maybe he was a little bit more, I don't know, a little smarter than he gets credit for. I don't know. But he did pass lie detector tests. There was 8-year-old Georgia Jean Weckler. She disappeared near her home in Fort Atkinson on May 1st, 1947, and she had been walking home less than a half a mile from school and was last seen being held down in what looked like a 1936 Ford sedan, which this was similar to Ed Gein's 1937 Ford that he drove. There's also a 15-year-old Evelyn Grace Hartley who disappeared while babysitting on the evening of October 24th, 1953, disappeared from a home in La Crosse County, and her blood was smeared on the exterior and interior of the house, and police found her glasses and one shoe left behind. Her disappearance led to one of the biggest searches in Wisconsin history. Police later questioned Ed about Evelyn's disappearance after his arrest, but he denied any involvement and passed 2 lie detector tests. Investigators couldn't find any trace of Evelyn's remains during the search of his property. But it's hard. It's like there is so much unidentified remains that just never got identified. Yeah. So it's really hard to definitively say whether or not he was really not connected to any of these cases.
Yeah, and those are gone now.
Right? Yeah, unfortunately. Then there's 42-year-old Victor Harold Travis and Raymond Burgess, who went missing on November 1st, 1952. The 2 men were last seen around 7 p.m. at a bar in Plainfield. They had reportedly left to hunt on the property near Ed Gein's farm. Allegedly, he had interacted with them that day and told them he didn't want them hunting there. No trace of these hunters were ever found. Ed was also linked to the disappearance of 32-year-old James Walsh. This was Ed's neighbor who disappeared in June 1954. Ed had reportedly done work for James's wife after he had gone missing, and that disappearance has never been solved. Psychiatrists believe that Ed only harmed women, especially those who physically resembled his mother. So many of these investigations led nowhere, but many still believe that Ed had more victims than he admitted to. And I think it's this fact that a lot of people believe and like to link him to these other murders and other disappearances, that he kind of gets put in the same circle as other serial killers, even though he only has 2 confirmed murders.
Right.
But the media, man, the media invaded the small town of Plainfield like nobody's business. I mean, this was a huge, huge story. Many had never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Ed Gein was, in a way, the first of his kind, especially in the eyes of local and national newspapers. Obviously, the small town of Plainfield was in complete and utter shock. Resident Max Harrington said that Plainview was a community where the families that lived there had always been there. The news of Ed Gein's activities in this quiet town still disturbs locals to this very day, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's something that this town will never be able to shake.
Yeah.
When word got around to the rest of the locals on the night he was arrested, many couldn't believe it was true. Ed was always a little bit off, but generally friendly to many of the locals. The reality was that one of the most horrific killers in the U.S. was living among them, and the news media came flooding into this little town. And more stories added to the media circus, of course. Reportedly, a local 16-year-old whose parents were friends with Ed and who went to movies and baseball games with him claimed that he had once told them about keeping shrunken heads in his home. He claimed they were sent by his cousin, who had served in the Philippines in World War II, and what he was referencing was probably his skulls and skin that he didn't want to fully admit to.
We know that he was joking about, I think it was Mary Hogan, after she had gone missing. She's like, oh no, she's up at my property.
Right,
you know? So he would make those types of remarks, and maybe that was just a game for him, really. Just something
attempts
fun.
To conceal and mislead people.
Yeah.
Which to me shows a level of competence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like somebody who's completely insane likely doesn't have the mental ability to do that. I could be wrong. I mean, it's hard to say, but it just seems like he was perhaps more competent.
Yeah. The only sloppiness I can really point out definitely was they had the receipt for the antifreeze in the store, and he had been bothering Bernice.
Right.
And then he even asked Frank if he would be out of the store the following day. That seems a bit sloppy, but yeah, I don't know. Seems like everything else was fairly calculated here. But yeah, the stories surrounding Ed Gein made Plainfield go from a, as I mentioned earlier, totally nondescript town to the home of America's most deranged killers overnight. And a 1957 report also shocked the nation when a Minneapolis Tribune interview revealed that Ed Gein might have had a girlfriend for nearly 2 decades. Her name was Adeline Watkins, who admitted she was in a long-term relationship with Ed Gein, and she described him as good and kind and sweet. She even felt like she was taking advantage of him because he always wanted to do what she wanted to do. She said they often went to the movies and the bar. Ed liked to have milkshakes, and she often preferred a beer. They also both loved to read books, and they bonded over that. She said Eddie liked books about lions and tigers in Africa and India. They also liked reading about murders in the news, and Ed would talk about what the murderer did wrong and what mistakes they made during the crime. And during their relationship, Adeline's mother made her return home by 10 p.m. curfew every night. Her mother called Ed a sweet, polite man.
Meanwhile, the notorious farmhouse still stood in Plainfield, and locals became worried that this would become some sort of freak attraction for outsiders. The property was about to be auctioned off, but a few days earlier, on March 20th, 1958, it mysteriously burned to the ground. Apparently, the local government had ordered the burning of trash and other belongings from the property. One theory was that the wind shifted the fire and embers and accidentally burned the house down. And this fire was 75 feet away approximately. Although according to a deputy fire marshal, the fire had not spread along the ground from that burn location to the house. I mean, that seems just like a no-brainer. Like, why would they do this big burn right next to the house if they don't want the house to burn down?
It's 75 feet, and there was a bunch of snow on the ground, too. So.
Yeah. So many suspected arson, especially since the townsfolk wanted to keep the house from becoming a local spectacle. But the cause of the fire was never officially determined. Reportedly, the son of victim Bernice Worden, Frank, was also the fire chief at the time. He seemed not to care about the house burning to the ground. Even after the house did burn to the ground, people would visit the empty lot out of curiosity.
I don't blame people for burning this thing to the ground either.
Yeah, I think that's about right. In March 1958, some of Ed's belongings, including his truck that he'd used to transport bodies, was auctioned off. The car was bought at an auction for over $760 by a carnival operator, Bunny Gibbons. He charged people 25 cents to take a picture of the car, which back then, 25 cents was a decent amount of money for a picture, and this is considered one of the earliest moments of serial killer consumer culture, otherwise known as murderabilia. This carnival operation was later shut down and banned by the state of Wisconsin, and the car was never seen again. Some of Ed's belongings are still in circulation, including the cauldron that Zach Bagans bought, and he still has. Luckily, most of the truly disturbing objects in his home were destroyed by authorities. I always wonder, how does these objects get out there?
Yeah.
How does Zach get some of the shit?
Right.
It's crazy.
Is it like, did the cauldron, was there like an extended family member who was like, oh, we have some of the objects, what do you want? The rest we're going to auction off? Is that how it works? I have no idea what you do with this stuff. That's also why I kind of believe that the cauldron was an innocuous, like, object in the house.
It was like clean in an attic somewhere.
Yeah, that's
never used.
Because I feel like if it was, they would have destroyed that.
Right.
You know?
You would think, at least.
Yeah.
Years later, in 1968, doctors determined that Ed Gein was mentally fit to stand trial. And the trial began on November 7th, 1968, and it lasted 1 week. He requested a trial by judge and not a trial by jury, which he was granted. He defended himself, saying that while he was examining the gun in the warden's hardware store, the weapon just discharged, and that's how he ended up killing Bernice Worden. He had told a psychiatrist he didn't know whether it was intentional or accidental, and he didn't remember anything else that happened that morning. On November 14, 1968, Judge Robert H. Golmar found Ed Gein guilty of the murder of Bernice Worden. A second trial was to determine if Ed Gein was sane at the time of the murders, and after hearing testimony by several doctors, the same judge ruled Ed Gein not guilty by reason of insanity. And at that point, he was committed to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane, and here he was given structure and a routine. And, 3 hots and a cot, as they say. And all of his needs were met. And he spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital. He was never tried for the murder of Mary Hogan, even though he admitted to it. According to Judge Golmar, Ed Gein was not tried for the murder due to prohibitive cost, which is weird. Okay, means, all of a sudden. Ed Gein was interviewed by a forensic psychologist, Dr. Helen Morrison, while he was in the hospital, and she claims that he was completely incoherent and, quote, such a little person that I found it hard to picture him as the person who committed all these homicides. He lived there very peacefully. He never caused any problems, never had any type of behavioral thing. no type of consequence for bad behavior. Essentially a model patient, model prisoner, if you want to call it that. He was much like he was on the outside, a bit quiet, odd, simple-minded, but seemingly harmless. While Ed was in the mental hospital, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77, he died of respiratory failure at the Mendota Mental Health Institute.
So there you go. He was given a burial between his parents and his brother in Plainfield Cemetery, and this is one of the 3 cemeteries where he exhumed and abused corpses as well. Over the years, many began chipping away at his gravestone, taking the pieces as souvenirs, and some were sold off. Some also etched the numbers 666 between his name and the years of his birth and death on that headstone. The entire gravestone was later stolen in 2000. It was later recovered in June 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and police permanently stored it away from the public. Ever since, his burial plot has remained pretty much an unmarked grave. You can still kind of know where it is because it's between his brother and his mom. Despite only being known for having committed 2 murders, Ed Gein is still considered by the mainstream as one of the most disturbed killers in American history. Over the years, Ed Gein got the nickname the Butcher of Plainfield, and he was also called the Plainfield Ghoul, and his disturbing legacy went on to inspire books and movies like Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, among many others. Psycho was one of the first of its kind, bringing the human monster in front of audiences rather than a mythological or paranormal
Frankenstein.
one. Yeah, the classic
Dracula.
ones. Yeah, werewolves. Yeah. Which, that was the norm. And, when you think of something like the Chainsaw Massacre, that's regarded as one of the most influential slasher movies ever made. I actually got to see it last year in theaters because it was the 70th anniversary or something like that.
The original?
Yeah, the original. It was actually really cool to see it. It's the Psy or C Film Center in Denver. They'll sometimes do that.
That's cool.
Project old movies up there, but it was cool getting to see it in theaters. Crazy movie. I mean, super
Imagine
disturbing.
the time
Yeah.
when that came out initially.
Right.
People were freaked out.
Yeah, slashers weren't really a big thing back then.
People were walking out of that movie pissed, upset, throwing up.
Right. And then, of course, the story of Ed Gein obviously directly inspired the Netflix series Monster, the Ed Gein story, which is what we're going to dive into here.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
God.
I just want to say first and foremost, and other people can attest to this in the office, that I have disliked, what's his name, Charlie Hunnam?
Yeah.
Is that his name? As an actor since Sons of Anarchy. I thought he was just completely overrated. It's like he's reading lines. I watched Pacific Rim not that long ago. He's just not good in it. He's a hunk. He's a very attractive man. A boring actor, though. Wow.
Yeah.
Puts me to sleep every time. But how many dogs do you have, Josh?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 dogs. Getting the diet right, each dog's a little bit different. But honestly, Jerry is typically good with eating her food, but she's very particular. So knowing that, when I first got Sundays, I was worried she was going to do the same thing, where she'll eventually eat it, but at first she's really skeptical. She's like, I don't know, Dad, this isn't what we usually eat. I don't know if I can trust this. With Sundays, I scooped it, put it in her bowl. No questions asked, she immediately went for it. It's also just really high quality food. I even did some extra research into their food, and it passes all the tests. It's a very, very clean food that you're feeding your dogs.
Yeah, it was started by a veterinarian, Dr. Tori Waxman. It uses 100% all-natural meat and superfoods with 0% synthetic nutrients or artificial ingredients. Unlike a lot of other foods that have fillers and everything else in it, it's high quality, it uses real ingredients. It's human grade, believe it or not, and I have had a bowl or two of it. It tastes like jerky, basically.
Yeah, but kind of dried out.
More
right?
dry, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely need a little water to go down with it. Which a trick, too, is throw some water on it.
Yeah.
And it kind of just allows some of those, juices and flavors to escape the food a little bit and kind of create a little bit of mixture.
A little broth.
They love it.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm a paying customer of Sundays, actually. I buy their food for all 4 of my dogs, and it's great that they can all eat the same foods. And it's nice, too, because it's such a nutrient-dense food that you actually feed them less than you would kibble.
Yep.
I haven't met a dog that's turned it down yet, honestly.
It's that good. So what are you guys waiting for? Thousands of dog parents have made the switch and reported pups with more energy, better poops, softer fur, and fresher breath, all thanks to Sundays. So make the switch to Sundays. Go right now to sundaysfordogs.com/lightsout and get 50% off your first order, or you can use code lightsout at checkout. That's 50% off your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/lightsout.
sundaysfordogs.com/lightsout, or use code lightsout at checkout.
Created by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan, the series gets a lot of things wrong, and it's more interested in fleshing out a very fictionalized version of Ed Gein and is much less interested in getting all the facts straight. It takes all the theories, suspicions, and potential victims and really sensationalizes the events that were never proven to have actually happened. And the show leans into the theory that Ed Gein murdered his brother. In the show, he hits him over the head with a piece of wood and starts a fire to burn his body. Reportedly, as we mentioned, he had died of a heart attack while trying to fight the fire. And also, his body was not reportedly burned, and no foul play was suspected. So they even get the details of, like, even if it was a potential murder, which I could kind of believe, he wasn't burned. So that doesn't make any sense. The show also runs with the theory that Adeline Watkins truly did have a long-term romance with Ed Gein, and she's the one who encourages necrophilia, even though there's no evidence of that happening. And this version of Adeline also actively participates in the grave robbing with Ed.
Basically an accomplice. Oh. Yeah. Not to mention, looks nothing like the real Adeline at all. They of course got another young, beautiful actress to play Adeline to create that sort of romantic relationship thing that's going on. Yeah, they definitely stretched it pretty far with her.
Yeah, and this adds to this theory, which I have a bit more evidence coming up to this theory. So sorry if I sound woke when I say this, but I do have this theory that a lot of Ed Gein, so it's a guy who murders a bunch of women, right? So instead of reading that as like, oh, this guy's a misogynist, what people have done with this case kind of retroactively is blamed all the women on the murders. So it's like, it's not Ed Gein, it's actually his mom who instilled all this crap in him that made him a killer. So it's not Ed Gein the man, it's his mom, a woman. And then here the show is doing this as well, where it's Adeline who's like, yeah, you should go fuck a corpse. She's actually the disturbed one, not Ed. It's not Ed who's having these thoughts.
Yeah, Ed's
it's a
just
woman
being influenced.
Right, exactly. So I have one more point of evidence to this, so bear with me. But she also tells Ed in the show that she has a list of people she has to murder, saying, quote, "You and me have always been the same, Eddie Gein." So the show is admitting that Adeline is also a murderer. But here's another point I have to make. In the show, Adeline is also the one who introduces Ed to disturbing photos and books about the Nazi war criminal. I believe it's Ilse Koch. So this is what I didn't bring up earlier, because every time you see this case presented, her name is brought up all the time. And the show, it even has an illustrated comic book detailing her crimes, which that doesn't exist in real life, and a ridiculous way to portray that. But stories claim that Koch would fashion her victim's skin into artifacts like lampshades. She was never convicted of mutilating the corpses of the people who were murdered in Buchenwald. Disturbing and gruesome items were discovered there, but there was no proof that they were connected to her. And in recent history, some believe that she has been used as a scapegoat to try and place the disturbing war crimes on one individual, when really we know those crimes were most likely shared by many, many Nazis who operated those camps, correct? So even that, going back, they're like, no, it was this woman. It was this one woman who actually was the war criminal here. So it's like, I don't know why we like to do that when it's like clearly this guy is the one performing it. Admittedly, he confessed to all these. I know there's a fine line between, we can kind of distill his motivations down to his mother and things like that. I'm not saying that that's not a plausible theory here, but it is funny that when we bring up Ed Gein and like what this show is also buying into, it's the mother's fault. It's his girlfriend's fault, who doesn't even really, it's not proven that she exists. And then what he was inspired by was a Nazi criminal that was a woman. I don't know. Sorry if I come off.
It's hard to ignore. It's hard.
Sorry if I come off as woke there, but I feel like those points of evidence might hold some water.
Yeah. Good God. Yeah. When you really explain it that way and drill into it, you're like,
Yeah, and Ed's just this hot guy in the show.
Dancing in the kitchen.
Yeah, right.
So ridiculous. Oh my God.
Yeah. But Charlie Hunnam, the actor who plays Ed Gein in the show, says that the creative direction of having Adeline as an integral part of the show is because she is a quote-unquote fantasy of Ed's. She's depicted as a woman obsessed with disturbing media, which also is this tongue-in-cheek way of poking fun at fans of the show, right? Because who could be interested in this type of content?
Yeah, it's so weird that they're like, oh yeah, this is all just the fantasy of it all.
Yeah.
You know, all these things we added are just fantasies that could happen.
It's like, you could say that, then now your creative freedom is unlimited.
Right.
There could be Dumbo flying through the frame in the TV show, and you'll be just like, well, it's from Ed's perspective.
Who knows what is going on?
Right.
Well, it's like, what is the purpose of the show? What are we doing here?
What are we doing? I like how you asked that question out of the gate. Like, what's the purpose?
What are we? That was literally my thought when I saw this, and I started watching it, and I was like, oh, what are we doing here? What is the point of this?
Right.
And the point that comes across for me is that we're taking a real life atrocity and tragedy and an individual who I believe is evil and did evil things, and making them into something that people feel empathetic for and feel sorry for. For what reason? Why are we empathizing with evil? Why are we empathizing with a monster who did monstrous things, who killed 2 women in cold blood, who may have done other things and desecrated countless loved ones' remains? And yet here we are trying to give him like a happy ending to his story and inserting all of this fantasy shit so the viewer feels warm and fuzzy about him by the end of it. It's just bizarre to me. It's like, what are we doing here?
Right. It's just the tale as old as time of romanticizing serial killers.
It's like, I just don't like, why do that when you can just create a fictional character?
Psycho, Norman Bates.
Yeah. Every horror movie practically made is somehow loosely inspired by real events, true events, but they don't take the real likeness and name and some of the real elements and put it in there, you know what I mean? And call it a real person's name. It's just bizarre because the way that you're marketing it and the way that it's coming across to people is that this is like, a bio for Ed Gein. Like the people that don't know his story are going to watch this and be like, oh my God, this is what an insane story.
Yeah.
All this happened. He had a girlfriend and she's this beautiful girl and and he was a hunk. My gosh. The fact that it's just, I don't understand what the purpose is, because you're just misleading people.
Yeah. Because
they know, Ryan and Ian know, the average person doesn't know that much about Ed Gein.
Sure.
Unless you're a true crime consumer and you've listened to podcasts or watched documentaries before. And that's what I see from the reviews, is a lot of people clearly don't know the real story. Either that or they're choosing to ignore it for the fantasy that's been created because it's it's this soap opera now.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre to me. It's like, what next? And they're trying to do that with other people. Like the John Wayne Gacy shit. I'm like, why on fucking earth are we trying to tell John Wayne Gacy's story again?
And you can't convince me that John Wayne Gacy is a very attractive man.
No. Yeah, but like especially the fact that they knew who their target audience was, and that's why they cast Charlie Hunnam.
Right.
They knew, bring in an attractive guy, Addison Rae is in the freaking show.
Right.
this is so obvious what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is to
we're just
market.
fetishizing this.
Yes.
Because there's no point other than to do that, to romanticize and fetishize. I don't know what else we're doing here.
No. I mean, what if that swayed one's opinion about Ed Gein? Maybe one person left that show being like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad of a guy. You know what? Maybe he just had a tough life, a tough run of things. And all these damn women, man.
Yeah, all these damn women.
They're all leading him down this dark path.
Right.
We feel bad for him, and he talks like Winnie the Pooh. It's just like, ugh. Well, it gets
there's
worse.
more.
That's just one part of it. So the show takes the liberty of playing out all the murders that we have zero proof that they ever happened. They're not confirmed. For example, when we mentioned Evelyn Hartley earlier, the teenager who disappeared in 1953 from La Crosse, even though authorities cleared Ed in 1957, the show still depicts him murdering her after she took a babysitting job that Ed wanted, which is fucking nuts.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that completely unethical? Like, even as a fiction storyteller, right? Taking a teenage victim who actually it's an unsolved case, fictionalizing that, and then just depicting the murder of her for what? Again, we can always come back to that's it.
We need a kill in every episode.
It's lazy.
And that's what it is. Yeah. It's just sick, honestly.
Yeah.
He was also cleared of murdering the two hunters, if you remember, Victor Travis and Raymond Burgess. But in the show, oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had to bring in Texas Chainsaw Massacre in here, and he dramatically kills the two hunters with a chainsaw, which is like, dude, this is just such a clear violation to me. It's like, we need to have a movie poster with Ed Gein carrying a chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's going to draw people in, right?
Right.
Let's play off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is loosely inspired by Ed Gein.
It's really just the human leather is like really the only thing that is inspired.
Yeah.
That's like the only connection to it. And maybe it's like a isolated house.
Right.
Those are like the two basic things.
Right. But they're like, no, he needs to be using a chainsaw in this show.
Right.
But probably the worst thing to me about this whole entire show is the fact that they depict Ed having a romantic relationship with his victim, Bernice Warden.
Gross.
Because at one point, he takes her out on a date and they sleep together. I could not believe it. It's episode 4, I believe. I was just like, you got to be kidding me right now. How disrespectful and disgusting is this?
Yeah.
That they've decided to take the liberty to put this in there, and Ed wears her underwear. And there's, again, no evidence to suggest that they were ever in a relationship. Plus, Ed told doctors at Central State Hospital that he never had a sexual experience because of his mother's ideologies she had ingrained in him. Obviously, is there an off chance that maybe he did and he lied? Yes, but there's nothing confirming that whatsoever. But the show takes a real person who they're depicting,
a victim
with the real name of that victim, and creating a whole fictionalized setup.
Yeah,
I think this is the just gross negligence on their part. And they should be ashamed for doing that. It's insane.
And that's why I felt like when they were saying like, oh no, this is just Ed's fantasies. This is how he sees the world in his head. That's such a cheap and lazy way to kind of like cleanse yourself of any unethical creative decisions. It's like, no, this is clearly unethical, man. I don't know how you think you can just wash your hands. That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's probably the most egregious thing I saw in that. I mean, there's just so many things. Then there's another detail of the story where the series gets wrong is how Ed gets caught. In the series, police find a gift box in Bernice's hardware store, but as we mentioned earlier, her son discovered a receipt for the antifreeze, which Ed had talked about buying the day before. The series also depicts a correspondence between Ed Gein and the serial killer Richard Speck. Richard was convicted of murdering 8 female nurses in Chicago in 1966, and in the show, he admits he was directly inspired by Ed Gein, but they never spoke in real life. Then the series also this was just such a wild left turn here.
This screams of like Netflix producers.
Yeah.
Like we need to plug this.
Plug the other show.
Yeah,
Plug the other
yeah.
show. Get it in there.
Yep.
Also shows Ed Gein speaking with Special Agent John Douglas. Special Agent Douglas was one of the FBI or first FBI criminal profilers and became well known for his work over the years. And the character Holden Ford in the Netflix series Mindhunter is based on him. In the Ed Gein show, Ed helps Special Agent Douglas catch Ted Bundy. Like, come on, dude. It just is like, here's my thing is that I think the series, if you watch episode 1 and 2, I was like, okay, not too bad. They're getting you into the mind a bit and the world of Ed Gein and what it was like with his mom. But then it just like, they just went fucking sideways real fast because they're like, well, not enough action. We gotta pick it up here.
Yep.
And then just throw in all this other random stuff. So
it's just cheap.
It
It's
is
just sex, murder, whatever.
What
Let's
else?
throw in as much as we can.
Ted Bundy, throw him in there.
Yeah, for no reason.
But yeah, obviously Ed never worked with Special Agent Douglas, and he definitely never helped catch Ted Bundy. Special Agent Douglas said this in an interview, quote, I had the opportunity to briefly meet him, but Gein was so psychotic that it really wasn't much of an interview. Not like the ones I did after with other serial killers. It was really weird. He was working in the leather shop at the prison.
Jesus Christ.
At Mendota State Mental Institution.
They put him in the leather shop after all this. I can't even believe
It's bizarre.
that.
Yeah, after the sex scene with Bernice Warden, the thing that just drove me nuts and I hated the most was the fact that Charlie Hunnam decided to create his own version of Ed Gein's voice.
Yeah.
Mother. Oh. And we played you an audible clip. Nothing like the real Ed Gein. Ed Gein talked pretty normal, honestly. Like he sounded like.
Yeah. And even Charlie Hunnam was saying in an interview, he's like, oh, I didn't have access to the tapes until like a few days before we started shooting. I'm like, one, you either did and you just didn't look into it, or why didn't you research that even remotely?
Austin, he said he read every book known to man about Ed Gein. And after doing all of this research, he decided that him and the producer decided that was the voice that Ed Gein would have had.
He couldn't have just gone on google.com and said, what did Ed Gein sound like? Boom. Right.
No, I think that's just I think it's a cover
for
the real reason that they wanted it to sound that way.
It's all creative decisions that we're making here.
Right.
Yeah.
In the fantasy of Ed Gein.
Yeah.
He talks like this, mother. Oh,
where's my honey?
Oh, hi. I'm a hunk. I look nothing like the Ed Gein, and I don't sound like him either. Yeah, it's just like Ed Gein was this meek, mild, like quiet, shy guy who talked pretty normal and sounded like people at the time, was a bit slow, but like he definitely didn't sound like fucking Bert from Bert and Ernie on Sesame Street. He didn't sound like Winnie the Pooh. Oh, Eeyore.
Yeah.
That was bad. I think that was just like, clearly it was part of creating this character that they wanted you to believe in. And Charlie Hunnam claims it was inspired by all the research he did. He also said he was inspired by Ed's relationship with his mother, saying this, I started to see him through a series of affectations to please his mother. That's where the voice came from. I thought that a lot of his behavior would grow inauthentically out of his desire to be the person that he thought his mother wanted him to be, and that was as much like a girl as possible. So now he's saying that this voice is supposed to be a girl's voice? What?
I don't understand it.
Oh, mother.
He's a hack actor, man. He doesn't know what he's doing.
I honestly thought a lot of the acting was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Frank, it wasn't great. Honestly, a lot of it seems like they spent most of their budget on Charlie Hunnam. As far as the actors go, and the rest were like, I'll give Charlie this. He did his best maybe to bring Ed Gein to life. I think he's got some similar facial structure to him.
They did the makeup.
The
like
makeup
his eye and
was
everything.
decent. Like he definitely has got some resemblance there, but the guy said he lost like 20, 30 pounds. He's still beefy,
Ripped.
dude. He's still ripped. Like those
Yeah.
photos. I'm like, Ed did not have
A
huge
six-pack.
triceps
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, my God.
Got to be sexy though. He's got to be
Right.
sexy.
Sex
And
sells,
that's what
man.
those posters are. You know, there's somebody with the poster on the wall, you know, like they wanted that appeal. Despite the inaccuracies. I mean, Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan explained that the events in the series from Ed Gein's perspective that we made up
Yep.
in a bunch of producer meetings, and that the audience is meant to question what is real and what is only happening in Ed's head.
But why?
But what?
Why do we want to do this?
Why do I want to get in Ed's head?
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm sure we're coming across as a bunch of haters here, but
Fine.
I
accept that
honestly
badge.
don't care because I think it's just fucked up. I don't see any reason for it. Like, can't we be more creative than this? Why? Like, the true crime fucking entertainment business is getting insane. And it's just getting wild. It's like, why can't we just have good quality, like a good historically accurate, factual documentary? And like, even if they wanted to do reenactments or have an actor play him, at the very least, get the facts straight and get and like, let's take care of the victims here. Let's take care of those affected by it. Because every time you put this on the fucking streaming service, there's still family members out there, friends that knew these people, and they've got to fucking see Charlie Hunnam's face on their fucking Netflix screen,
right,
with the fucking skin suit on. It's just like, what are we doing?
I mean, I'll get on my soapbox for a hot second here. You know, there's this idea that, you know, you said the word hater. So there's this idea that being a hater actually isn't all that bad because, and here's why. Hear me out. Hear me out. Because we have this consumer culture in America where if you have this kind of positive mentality about every single thing that you possibly consume and everything's good and like, oh, well, you just, you know, enjoy your thing, I'll enjoy mine. Everything's just keep consuming whatever they throw us our way. That's kind of how we end up in this consumer slop culture of where these studios, they believe that they can feed us anything.
Right.
That we won't question the ethics of doing something like this, that we won't question the quality of doing something like this because you get labeled a hater if you don't like it in the end. It's like, oh, why are you spending all this time like disliking something? It's because they'll keep shoveling this. The quality will keep degrading across the board, especially Netflix. I'm coming for you. Your quality in shows and movies are just dipping by the year, man.
I agree. I'm with you, dude.
It's so bad. And so the more we just accept these things and like, oh yeah, it was great, when it's not, and it's actually a problem too of how they're depicting some of these things. We need more haters like us so we can kind of put a stop to what they keep shoveling down our throats.
They literally do like kind of shovel it in your face because they have that like top 10 list now.
Right.
And when this came out, this is like number one. It's the very first thing when you log into your Netflix for the first time. Boom.
Yep.
There's the face. There's a, you know, they're marketing it to you right then and there. And you don't have time to question or there's nothing to compare it against. Any Netflix original, you can't even see reviews on there.
Right.
I can't even see what the audience, they used to do that where like they'd show you the audience scores it and stuff. There's none of that now.
No, because they know it would tank. It would be terrible.
If it was like 80% thumbs down on people would tune out. So it's, that's a very, very good point that this is, that's exactly what they're doing. And they're just exploiting
tragedy.
Tragedy and a horrible story, an individual, a deeply disturbed individual who caused a lot of pain for a lot of people and does not need a Hollywood actor bringing them back to life. For what reason?
Right.
There is no other reason than to glorify this person and create fans. Like that's there's fans of these people and fans like the murderabilia and all that, you know, like it's this weird, sick corner that I just don't understand of why we're going that far. Like, and this is like, we're all three of us here big horror fans. Like we love horror movies. We love horror films. And the horror films that I love the most are the most creative, original ideas where it's
Same.
like, I've not seen this before.
Mhm.
This is clearly from a brilliant mind who like
Weapons.
exactly.
I've never
who, like,
seen a movie like that.
put something together, and maybe there's like some loose inspiration from maybe some real events, or maybe the place or the setting is kind of
Sure.
similar.
Yeah.
That to me is fine. It's when it's literally when you're taking something out of history and then putting your own spin on it and be like, well, it's the fantasy of Ed Gein. Get ready.
And doing it irresponsibly.
And doing
too.
it just fucking butchering it,
Yeah.
in so many different ways. And that was why I didn't want to ever talk about the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, because I feel a similar type of way about that, of like, why are we giving these monsters a second life on our TVs? For what? If you want to learn about it, listen to a podcast, watch a documentary, get the facts on it, and move on.
Yeah, I sometimes lose sleep over thinking that I'm getting some information wrong about, like, especially when it comes to like a victim or victims' families or something like that. I cannot conceive of the idea of me being in a room where it's like, oh yeah, let's sex up Ed Gein. Let's get all this shit wrong on purpose. Like,
let's have him have sex with his victim.
Yeah,
what the fuck? Whose idea was that?
That's because you have a soul.
Yeah,
No, that's the problem. Is it's a soulless society, man. There's just these people are enslaved to Netflix, enslaved to the money, and they will break whatever ethical lines there are to bring the most shocking series and depict it in a way that keeps people engaged and watch through to the end. And that's just the reality.
I'm hoping people are kind of coming around to this, though. I don't
know,
think we're,
man. There's a lot of 5-star reviews on it. I was kind of shocked.
There are, but I have seen some smaller communities vocalize kind of what we're vocalizing to. I don't think it's like we're in like a small minority. I think it's people are starting to realize this is a problem.
Well, it's just like when you're marketing it in a way that feels like you're creating a biopic or some type of, real life documentary series, to where people don't understand that you're fictionalizing things without doing their own research on it. That's what bothers me, is there's not like a follow up to this at the end of like, hey guys, actually what you just saw, XYZ is completely made up and bullshit. And
that's why I don't like the genre in general. I don't really like biopics in general, because I know I'm like, you guys are lying to me.
Yeah,
this.
There's an agenda here.
Yeah,
to this.
There are a few that I like, and they all take some sort of like creative liberty to tell the story, or they distill things, and that's
to make them larger than life, or create moments that weren't really that big of a deal, but in the series are a much bigger deal. And
sure, but I think some like really well done ones get to the heart of the story. I don't know. I really like Walk the Line, Johnny Cash's one, or Ray, the Charles one. Like those two kind of speak to me. I think it's like,
again,
kind of
musicians,
not
killers,
right?
Menaces to society that were like, oh, let's revive them.
Yeah,
we all need to be reminded of what Jeffrey Dahmer did.
Yeah.
Oh, and let's sprinkle in some new details you haven't heard of before, because they're completely made
false.
up. For entertainment value. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's a call to the horror industry. We need some better horror movies, because these fucking people at Netflix are getting wild with it. They're like, well, can't get our own weapons, so let's just make our own.
Just a bunch of shit.
Who else can we do? Because they're already talking about the next Kemper. Ed Kemper's. I'm like, gotta be. Oh my God, what are they going to do to that story? It's just insane. I'm like,
whereas in like shows like Mindhunter, that's a biopic type of show. But I feel like they were actually trying to get the facts generally correct, or at least educate people on this semi-fictionalized story of like how we even understood the concept of serial killers, right? And that's why that show was fascinating, because I don't know. I don't think it was glorifying the killers as much. If anything, they were terrifying. Like Ed Kemper in that show was genuinely unnerved me.
I think it's more. They're more trying to show the reality of the process of investigation and how to catch these guys in some different angle versus just straight up.
Here's this guy. Yeah, right.
Here he is.
Yeah,
where it's like, we're gonna have merch. It's like people are gonna be walking around with like Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein. I'm just like, that's what worries me, is it's just going to get carried out of control. And where do we stop?
Yeah.
There's a lot of killers, a lot of serial killers out there. Just how long is this monster series going to go for?
Right. God.
And what else are they going to do? I mean, I hope that they listen to the feedback. I hope that for future that they stick to the real story and not try to play this whole fantasy angle. And just like, if you're going to do it, then do it in a way that's does right by the victims and does right by those affected by these guys. Cause it's just any other way to me feels gross. It just feels like, why? What's the purpose?
Right.
Like, where's the money? Like, if you're doing this too, what are you guys doing for the true crime community? What are you doing for the victims?
They're buying another mansion
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
Where's all that money going that they're making off of this?
Mm-hmm.
That's that, you know, if you really want to get into the ethics of it, that's what I would be like. Ryan Murphy, where's all the cash going?
Yeah.
Are you doing anything to help anybody?
Not a chance, man. Not a chance. But you did say like, oh, I wish, you know, there were more original horror movies. I did watch this movie called Bring Her Back yesterday. Have you heard of this? It's so good. It's the Philippou brothers. You've seen it, Daniel?
I watched it last week.
Yeah, hell yeah.
What platform is this on?
It's I think it just hit HBO Max not long ago. I got the 4K disc though, A24, but it's crazy movie. I highly recommend. I think you
Bring Her Back.
Bring Her Back. Yeah. It kind of starts off as like, oh, I kind of see this is kind of a conventional story here, and by the second half, it's just
I love those
man.
where
It's
because
trip.
you just know the amount of thought and time and effort into creating the story happen.
Yeah, and it's the same guys who made Talk to Me.
Oh,
so I feel
sweet.
like you'd really
Yeah.
like it. Yeah. In my opinion,
okay.
In my opinion, it's better than Talk to Me. So I think you'll get a kick out.
I definitely have heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's good.
Should be good.
It's a fun time, but
well, if you watch the Monster series, we all fall into the trap. I get it. I mean, I watched some of it too, just out of curiosity.
I'm sure it's entertaining.
It is. I mean, it is
nothing else.
I mean, it is entertaining until you remember it's real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some people that are upset with our thoughts and opinions, and that's fine. It's fair.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm not only a hater. That's why I brought up Bring Her Back, because there is really great stuff out there that you can watch that I do
don't hate
enjoy.
everything.
Yeah, we don't hate everything.
But yeah, let us know. We obviously want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on the story of Ed Gein. Let us know what you thought of it. If you share some of the same opinions as we do. If you loved it, how are you overlooking some of these? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
like,
or like why?
Yeah, what about
curious.
it? Like, what's what
would
you rate
missing?
it? Yeah. Give us a rating for it if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, maybe you think twice about seeing it. And at least now that you've listened through this episode, you at least know the real story going into it. So you know it'll be very apparent to you what's the fantasy of Ed Gein.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bit of a different episode today. But we appreciate you for joining us, and as always, we'll see you guys next time. Till then, lights out, everybody.